Viewers, we're going to talk about the H-1B visas and what does the situation look like for 2020. Now, a recent report that has come out for the number of denials for H-1B makes some difficult reading. Even the high-tech companies such as Apple, Google, Amazon, and so on and so forth, even they have had very, very high failure rates. In other words, denial of H-1Bs applied for the first time. I have some numbers for you here, and these make some sobering reading. For example, Amazon has gone from 1% denial to 6% denial, which means 1 in 100 was getting rejected before. Now it is 1 in 16. In the case of Microsoft, it was 1 in 2015, and now in 2019 it is 8. So that means only 1 in 100 was getting rejected. Now 1 in 12 is getting rejected. And I can go across the board here. Intel 1 and 7, Google 1 and 3, Apple hasn't changed, 2 and 2. Facebook was getting no rejects. Now they have 2. IBM went from 3 failures or rejects to 34 in 2019. The two numbers I'm talking about, 2015 and 2019. And lastly, Cisco, which also has seen a jump from 1 to 8. And IBM I'll come back to in just a minute. These are the tech company denial rates. Let's look at the consulting company denial rates. Now this one makes a very sober reading. Deloitte has gone up from 8 to 43, almost 1 in it's 43 failures out of or 43% failure, which is almost 1 in 2. The same goes for Tech Mahindra. 4 rejects in 2015, now 41. For TCS, it is gone from 6 to 34. For Cognizant, it's gone from 8 to 60. Cognizant is really bad. For Accenture, 4 to 52. And Wipro, 7 to 53. Capgemini 5 to 55, and HCL from 2 to 35. So I can safely say that only almost 1 in 2 are getting rejected for the H1 visa applications. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that there is less demand in the United States? Or, okay, I want to tell you about IBM. IBM went from 3 rejects to 34 rejects. Why such a high number? Because now IBM also has started a services division in India, and it's a services division that is seeing a lot of those rejects. So essentially what I'm trying to say is you have the tech category and you have the services category. The tech category perhaps are the graduates coming out of IITs and some really prestigious engineering schools, and they are probably directly being hired after their bachelor's or master's or even PhD. It doesn't matter, but that's the category I'm thinking of. Now, does this mean that the need for H-1B has gone down? That's a good question. We have to look at the overall job situation picture in the United States to say yes or no for that. So just bear with me while I explain something else for you. So you have the H-1B route, which is people working in India, they come directly into the United States on work visas. Now, you also have a lot of students coming in to study in the schools of universities of United States. Let's assume that for the sake of argument that these are the valid schools, these are the approved accredited schools, not the ones that have been faked, and then that's a different story altogether. They come to an accredited school, let's say San Jose State University. By the way, San Jose State has close to 85 to 90% students who are of Indian origin. Whether it is undergrad or grad school, they have a very, very high number of Indian origin students. There are many other schools like that that have a very high percentage of Indian origin students. University of Southern California comes to mind. That also has a very high number. Now, all these kids who graduate, what do? Now, no matter where or what discipline they graduate in, they usually get is 1 year practical training visa. That practical training visa allows them to work and learn how things are done in the United States. Now, what happens is typically these kids are not finding jobs, and this has been a problem for many years now, 3, 4, 5 years probably. Now, so what they do is they go and enroll themselves with consulting companies. Now, the consulting companies work with the big companies such as the Cisco's, the IBMs of the world, and they have a certain kind of a need list, and they try to match your qualifications with that need list. Unfortunately, if they did just that, that will be fine. But there is a subtext to this. What typically happens is the need is something and the skill set is something else. So what happens? People try to pad their resume to make the skill set come all the way down to fit the need, as if this person has been working in this sector. To that end, what happens? A lot of resumes get fudged, a lot of fake experience get logged in. Now, these things have not been caught in the numbers I expected them to be caught, but very, very soon, I tell you, this is going to be caught. So just like the fake universities had a bust, you're going to have fake resume bust very soon, because I'm thinking that if a certain candidate applies to the same company for two radically different skill sets, that's when they are going to get caught. Why the companies looking at these resumes are not catching them yet is a mystery, but it's just a matter of time before that gets caught. So when that happens, you're going to have another purge of students headed back to India, and there will be all sorts of limbo, because some would have experience, some would not have experience. So there is going to be churn. Now, life is not easy today, even for children who have studied, who are born, studied, and got their degrees, all 12, 15, 16 years of education in the United States. And the reason for that is most companies prefer to hire them as consultants and not as full-time employees. And there is a trick to this. Why do they want to hire them as consultants, even though it costs them a little bit more than a permanent employee? Well, two reasons. One is that it does cost them less, because when you are a permanent employee, let's say a blue chip company, the blue chip company comes with perks such as stock. You have to have a 401k program. You have to have a Medicare program, and a lot of other things like incentive stock options and 2-week paid leave, so on and so forth. So all these things add up. So what they would prefer to do is hire people as consultants, where the consultants are just paid an hourly rate, nothing else. Everything else has to be managed by either the consultant or the company that the consultant goes through to work at these blue chip companies. Why do the blue chip companies want to do this? That's because they are trying to keep the earnings per employee number high. Now, if you go and look at finance.google.com and look up any blue chip tick, you will see a certain number called revenue per employee. That would be in like $1 million per employee. Really? An engineer in Apple contributes 1 million to the bottom line? No, it is not true. What is true is that there are a lot of consultants who are working 40 hours a week, but they are not shown as employees. Now, some states in the United States passed a rule that if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it should be a duck. Apply the same principle to a consultant. He works like a full-time employee, he's working the full hours of a full-time employee, then he should be treated as a full-time employee. Yes? So, unfortunately, there is a small loophole in that. The loophole is that an employee who works 40 hours a week, 4 weeks a year, 4 weeks a month, 52 weeks a year, shall be still treated as a consultant if the person for whom he works does not do his appraisal. Wait a minute, guys. How is that possible? When somebody works 40 hours full time and his quote unquote boss in the company is not appraising, who is appraising it? Clearly, the fact that this person is getting, extension after extension means that this person is doing a good job, right? So in that case, who is appraising? So there is an appraisal process going on, except that it is not being written. Some verbal stuff probably. I don't know what the mechanism is, but I think that the US government is going to look into this also very soon, and hopefully life will change. Now, let's take one step forward and say, okay, so there are lots of H-1Bs not being issued. A lot of people are going to come back. But the job is still there. The work is still there. The work is still needed to be done. Except that this work can be done if it is sent back to India. Because remember, many of these people who have worked here have a fair amount of experience. They have professionalism. They understand how things work in the United States. And they know what kind of yardsticks to perform by. But for that to happen, the Indian government needs to make sure that the environment is conducive for, say, a company like Apple to have a development center. Right now, as far as I know, Apple is having a manufacturing center there. They're not doing any development center. Apple tried doing this once, didn't work out. They pulled everything back to United States. Yahoo tried the same thing, same ending. So clearly there is a disconnect between their expectations and what they are getting from India. But this can be bridged provided the company policies, the government procedures for companies to come in and set up shop are eased. Right now, I know that just before Modi came for the Houston trip, that there was a new incentive given saying that new companies that are being set up will only be taxed at 15% in an n number of years. I don't remember how many years it is. 15% corporate tax. Now, keep that number in mind. Now, let's take a look at who else is in competition with India for the same workforce, which can deliver the same results, except this is a different country. Dubai. Why? Because in Dubai, you can start a new company, okay, a new company, and that is the company tax is free. The personal income tax of the employees is free. The only thing somebody needs to do is in 6 months, they have to spend 1 calendar day in Dubai to make mark attendance, saying that this company, the CEO or some C-suite employee came and worked here, and that is enough to satisfy the requirement that this is a listed Dubai company. Now think about it. Most of the jobs, the high-paying jobs that I'm talking about, most of these high-paying jobs are in programming, maintenance, cloud computing, what have you. All the stuff is in the cloud, meaning like up there. It's Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure, whatever. So the job doesn't have to be physically done in India. It can be done from Dubai also. Now, this is where the problem comes. Even a 15% tax slab that India is promising companies to come and set up shop may not be able to move the needle. So there are difficult times ahead. Dubai has had this program in place for 2 to 3 years now, and they've had a fair amount of success. In fact, when GST was sprung, a lot of companies who could shift from India, their headquarters to Dubai, actually did. A lot of companies who are doing export-import services, they can do that easily. It's not very difficult. And therefore, you as in India is losing a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs because of these imbalances in the way tax is being collected. Now, how is Dubai going to make their money if they are going to have zero personal tax and zero corporate tax? You'll have to ask the people who are running Dubai government that question. Ours is just to shine a spotlight on the kind of headwinds that people are facing. So will these jobs that are not going to be in the United States go to India, or will they go to Dubai, or will they go to some other country? Even Singapore is beginning to open up. Singapore used to be the manufacturing hub until it became too expensive, and then Singapore changed gears and went into things like fintech, especially with blockchain and so on and so forth. But fintech, Singapore also has some challenges. It is not an easy, the cost of living is quite expensive, and so is Dubai. Dubai's also cost of living is more expensive than in India. But the difference is that You have the cost of living differential, but you also have the cost of doing business differential. And if somebody makes the math on these things, who knows which comes better. Although we do know that Dubai has a very, very high population of able engineers of Indian origin. So we are not talking very far. I mean, whether they sit in Bangalore or in Dubai, if the work gets done and if the pricing is comparable, people don't mind. So there are challenges. So this is why the economy in India is facing a lot of headwinds now, because all these things are shaking out. It's not like they wait for you for a particular month to shake out. This has been happening for a while, and now you're seeing a bit of an acceleration. The reason for the acceleration is overall the global economy is slowing down. Why is it slowing down? One of the reasons is US China tariffs. One of the other reasons is the petroleum battles that are going on. So there, and you know what? Anytime you're going to have these, minor problems here and there, it's not always going to be smooth. That never happens. But the thing that needs to be thought about is those parents who are, hawking their homes to send their children abroad for studies. You may want to think about it. There is better way to do this thing, which is to try and identify a good school in India. If not, at least try to keep your costs down. See if you can send them to equally good schools, not just in the United States. I believe US is too expensive now. Maybe some other countries are better, but most important thing is that anyone who goes abroad, don't think that you're going to be able to settle down there and work. Those days have gone. I can tell you for sure. Now this is a new era, and nobody is deemed indispensable. No one's job is indispensable. So you need to make sure that you create your own niche, and that you succeed in your own skill set. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to PGurus channel.